the program. Let's move on to the Horn of Africa, where some parts of Somalia's capital, Mogadishu, are under a curfew a day before lawmakers select the country's next president. The security measures are focused on the area around the airport where the vote will take place, amid concern about a possible attack from Islamist militants. A no-fly zone will also be imposed ahead of the vote. Somalia has not had an effective central government since the fall of the Siad Barre regime in 1991. The country also frequently suffers terrorist attacks from al-Shabaab militants who have been fighting for years to drive out African Union peacekeepers, topple the central government and impose its own harsh interpretation of Sharia law in the country. In the meantime, the Deputy Special Representative of the UN Secretary-General for Somalia, Peter de Klerk, has completed a 3-day fact-finding mission to Somaliland and Puntland in Somalia to highlight the devastating impact of the current drought. 5 million Somalis, or more than 4 out of 10 people, do not have enough to eat because of poor rains and fighting between the Islamist militant group al-Shabaab and Somalia's African Union-backed government.
Mr. de Klerk ended a 3-day fact-finding mission in the semi-autonomous regions of Puntland and Somaliland, where he warned that if swift action is not taken, Somalia will experience a famine in 2017. Famine last struck pockets of Somalia in 2011, killing over 260,000 people. It was caused by droughts, conflict, and a ban on food aid in territory held by al-Shabaab.
It's clear that we are on our way to a famine if very quick action is not being taken. Very large numbers of livestock have died already. The livestock that is still there is in very, very bad shape. We've just visited this village, and none of the water sources that was there before, that was shared actually between the people and the animals, is functioning at the moment. So people are completely depending on water coming into this village, being trucked into this village, and that is actually typical for many other villages as well throughout this region.
De Klerk also visited rural areas of Somaliland. Residents of the village of Habaswin described the drought as the worst they had seen in 3 years. Both of Somalia's 2016 rainy seasons were below average, and the United States-based Famine Early Warning Systems Network has predicted that the April to June 2017 GU rains are going to be poor. According to FuseNet, the number of Somalis in need of assistance has risen sharply in recent months, from an estimated 5 million in September 2016 to over 6.2 million today. The later figure represents more than half of Somalia's entire population.
The humanitarian response plan for $863 million for this year. Out of that money, 300 million are very urgently required in the first quarter of this year if we are to avert a disaster. And that money will be required to keep animals alive, basically to keep people's livelihoods functioning. And if not, within a few months we'll find ourselves in a real famine situation, just saving lives and being unable to retain people's livelihoods. And in that case, it's going to take much longer for people to come back to a normal way of living.
In the south, the regions of Bay and Bakul are the worst worrying, as poor households have had little to no harvest, only few livestock, and rely on wage labor, which declines quickly during severe droughts. Hunger is particularly acute among Somalia's 1.1 million internally displaced people, who are extremely poor after being forced by conflicts and drought to flee multiple times.
The office of South Africa's President Jacob Zuma has reacted angrily to a newspaper article comparing him to U.S. President Donald Trump. The Mail and Guardian newspapers published an opinion piece with the headline, "Trump, Zuma are worse than liars." But the president's office criticized the article, saying it was way outside the conventions of responsible journalism and freedom of expression. The parliament in South Africa is due to consider proposed hate speech legislation, which among other things makes it a crime to insult the president. A judge in Malawi has given U.S. pop star Madonna the go-ahead to adopt 2 4-year-old twin girls from the southern African state. This comes a month after the pop star denied rumors that she had applied to adopt 2 more children in the southern African country. Judiciary spokesman Mlenga Mvula says, quote, "Today the High Court made a ruling that she should go ahead and adopt the 2 children. In fact, at the time we were granting her the permission, she was in the courtroom with her lawyers. End of quote. Madonna adopted a child from Malawi in 2006 and another in 2009. Cassava feeds millions of people across Africa, but lack of finances, poor planning and marketing of the crop partly explains why farmers in Cameroon hardly view it as a lucrative crop. AgroHub, an agricultural production and marketing agency, is now working with small-scale farmers in the country to train and help them access sustainable markets for the crop.
These farmers in Bua, southwestern Cameroon, have been harvesting cassava all their lives, but this season is different. They are anticipating better returns. The farmers are part of a program run by AgroHub, an agricultural marketing agency that is working to help communities earn higher profits by linking growers to markets and processing food crops like cassava into value-added goods. Cassava is one of the most drought-tolerant crops and can be grown on marginal soils according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. It gives good yields where many crops cannot do well.
We had very many difficulties because from farm when you come back to go and grind, you walk miles. But now that we have profit this machine, we grind only a stone throw and at least we feel better. We are feeling fine because the machine is really doing very great things in the life of women.
Cassava has over 300 derivative products, and besides being consumed as food, it is also used in construction and in the textile industry. It is also rich in vitamin C and manganese and is a major source of carbohydrates.
Most farmers do cassava not as a crop for the market. They try to do it for their homes. So we decided to transform cassava from a food crop into a commodity, and now it is becoming a commodity because the farmers have seen the various ways they can transform cassava into, and it can give them much more money than any other crop they were into before.
Sub-Saharan Africa is home to 17 of the 20 countries most economically reliant on agriculture in the world. In Cameroon, 70% of employment is related to agriculture, but most farmers lack the finances and technology needed to make their businesses profitable.
In the late 70s and early 80s, there was a program called the Green Revolution. Everybody was doing good at agriculture in Cameroon. But what we have seen is a gradual shift from agriculture into politics, agriculture into any other secular businesses. Why? Because the youths find agriculture as not cool anymore. The government don't support the agriculture. They don't give subvention to farmers enough for them to be able to compete.
Economists say programs like AgroHub that find ways to create added value to crops grown primarily for household consumption could be revolutionary in lifting Africa's small-scale farmers out of poverty.
And that's it on Network Africa. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Temitope Fagbin.